So for years, people have been testing the iPhones and cameras and comparing them against each other to see which one comes out on top, and we've been doing this for some years now. There is a lot of videos on YouTube, iPhone versus DSLR, iPhone versus mirrorless, iPhone versus cinema camera. Yeah, we've been putting the iPhone against a lot of different cameras over the years, but are we finally at the point where we can ditch cameras and go full iPhone? Let's find out. So in this video, I am going to be testing the iPhone. I'm going to be showing you some examples between the iPhone and a 7,000 plus quid camera setup and seeing if you can tell the difference between them. Now I'm going to give you 6 tips on how you can make your iPhone 13 cinematic mode footage look even better and even closer to a mirrorless DSLR, whatever dedicated camera. So before we do that, let's go through a few questions. Where is cinematic mode useful? I think cinematic mode is useful for those moments when you have a little bit more time to take a video rather than, you know, being at a birthday party or just some kind of event where you have to quickly take snaps. I think when you've got that extra bit of time to do that with videos, that's when cinematic mode is useful. So another big question is, what's better? Should I use cinematic mode or should I use normal mode? Which one do I use? Cinematic mode is for those who genuinely just want to create footage that looks like stuff you would see in the cinema. If you're filming like a landscape and you've got no other kind of subject in the video, then use normal mode. You're just going to be better off with it. So cinematic mode is for when you've got a little bit extra time to do a bit of setting up and a little bit of trial and error work. And then normal mode is if you just want to take the video just for the sake of having the video. Okay, so let's take a look at some example clips on the iPhone versus a full camera setup. This is a Canon R5 with a 15 to 35 f2.8 on it, and it's going to cost around, I want to say £7,000 altogether. And then the iPhone comes in at $999, or you can go for the iPhone 13, which I believe is something like $749. So I'll give you a quick second. Camera A or camera B? Which one do you think is the iPhone? Let me know down in the comments which one you think is the iPhone and which one you think is the Canon camera. In no way do I think the iPhone trumps the main camera. I definitely think it gives it a good run for its money, but I don't think it trumps the camera simply because cameras, I mean, we've got interchangeable lenses, adjustable apertures, we've got bigger sensors, we've got unbelievable autofocus and low light capability. Yeah, there's just so many things that take a camera over an iPhone, but for the fact that the iPhone is doing all this in software, unbelievable. If cameras had iPhone software, yeah, cameras would be insane. So, 6 tips to make your footage look more cinematic. So tip number 1 is to use 3x mode on the iPhone 13 Pro. This zooms in and isolates the subject even more. So it uses a 77mm lens, which is pretty tight. And if you have that cinematic mode on, it's going to make it even better. So it just looks so good. That blurry background just looks amazing. But one drawback to that is you do have to stand pretty far away, but it just looks that good, so it's worth standing that extra couple meters back. Tip number 2 is to use the foreground. Use something in the foreground to create depth. You take a look at the iPhone footage that we shot here. I'm on the right hand side, I am in focus, and then we also have the background that's out of focus, and then on the left hand side we have a subject that is out of focus, just creating more depth in the image. I think again we used 3x mode for this. Tip number 4 is to edit the blur afterwards. iPhones are not perfect, they don't get it right every single time, and they might not always get what you want. But never ever film something in cinematic mode and don't check it before you upload it, because guaranteed it's probably going to pick something up somewhere else and try and use that, so just always double check it. Tip number 4 is to reduce the exposure. Now, iPhones and just phones in general, they love to overexpose and pump the saturation up and the sharpening and make everything look as eyeball popping as possible. Now, this isn't always what you want. When you're filming in cinematic mode, you definitely don't want that overexposure and that bright colour and all that stuff. I always shoot at -1 when it comes to my exposure. That way I'm not getting my highlights blown out, I'm not getting the shadows like lifted way too much. It gives it a nice bit of contrast and it just looks the most natural. Tip number 5 is to use your rule of thirds. You will have 9 boxes. If you can imagine that there's 9 squares on your screen, use those to sort of place your subject. You can see that in this footage here that we was actually placing me in the right third of the screen. And this is good if you just want to isolate a subject or you want to show that they are looking around. Sometimes having everything in the slap bang center of the frame all the time is a little bit, it doesn't always look the greatest. Tip number 6 is to use f5.6 in the cinematic mode, because if you stop it all the way down to f1.2, it's gonna look, yeah, it's not going to look great, because what the iPhone does is it definitely shows up a very horrible looking blurred edge around you, and it doesn't quite get it. So just around here you'll get like a centimetre of a gap that'll be like not blurred out, so you'll be able to see the background just as sharp as you could see me. And then if all that's blurred up here, it just makes that little gap even more obvious. So 5.6 is just less blurred, it's more natural, but it's more blurred than the normal, so it just looks, it's in a sweet spot and it works perfect. It just looks the best. We're just over a month away from the iPhone 14 being revealed as well, so let me know in the comments if you're excited for what the next iPhone cameras are going to be like. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the stuff you already love to do. I will see you in the next one. Silly.